To be honest, man, I think I've got a bit of a problem, you know. I'm obsessed with climbing holds. I mean, man, I'm a climber and a route setter, so I love climbing holds. But I've collected so many holds over the years. It started off just nicking the odd climbing hold out the wall, I'll be honest.
Welcome to the first ever UK Chalk Talk. Hey! Brought to you by Red Chili and presented by myself, Culann O'Brien. And to bring in the first episode, I saw no better man. He's a big waller, he's a route setter, he's a coach bridge climber, Scotsman. It's Robbie Phillips.
Thank you very much for that wonderful intro.
How are you today?
I'm doing fine, man. How are you?
I'm good. I hope you feel honoured to be in the first episode.
Oh, very much so, man. I can't believe you've asked me, of all people, to be here for the very first episode of Chalk Talk.
Well, I said, there's no better man than a Scotsman. And I thought we may as well get stuck into it straight away. We're here, we're in front of your lovely home board. And one thing because I've been to a few home boards, right? And I usually go in and you usually see lads using every bit. They'll use teacups as holes because they're so cheap. But looking at your board, not only is it loaded with every different type of hold under the sun, but you also have a few boxes there off camera. I'd say about like 6 full boxes of various holes. What's your obsession?
I think, to be honest, man, I think I've got a bit of a problem, you know. I'm obsessed with climbing holds. I mean, man, I'm a climber and a route setter, so I love climbing holds. But I've collected so many holds over the years. It started off just nicking the odd climbing hold out the wall, I'll be honest. But then later on as things go on, I then started looking to like good brands, good shapers. In recent years, I've been looking more at wooden climbing holds. A couple of really good UK brands that I've gone to, such as Silly Goat climbing holds, Beastmaker. I've got some new hardwood holds up there. I've got some, what else I've got? I've got some tailor-made holds. I've got loads of different brands.
A lot of holds, yeah. That's actually, I'm glad you said the wooden holds things. That's one thing that struck me. It's that a lot of people you see home boards, you see usually they either go for like, it's usually big plastic holes, like big plastic slopers and, I don't know, they call them macro features, is that one thing? Or it's tiny wooden crimps. But you have a nice range. It's like you have wooden tiny crimps and you also have big slugs of like pinches plastics up there. What do you think, is that a thing you aim for, is a mix of plastic and wood?
Yeah, well, I think it depends on what sort of climber you are. I mean, if you're a competition climber, you're going to want lots of big macro features, slopers, that sort of thing, because that's what you're training on and you're training for. I'm a rock climber, so I want lots of crimps, lots of little pinches, basically holds that I'm going to have to be pulling hard on. I also like having lots of little dinky feet, so I'm really having to focus on drilling my feet through those little points, which is not so common in competition climbing as it is on rock. So I guess I've tailored my board to suit more the rock climbing that I'm doing more than anything.
And when you say you like try to source your holds from these different makers, do you get them actually made for yourself? Like, is there a certain type of hold that you're actually after when you're buying it? Or is it like, oh, that wood looks nice?
I think it's a bit of both, actually. So, I think Instagram is an amazing place to go and kind of get inspired by climbing holds. There's so many good shapers out there. And sometimes I'll just see someone shared like a new brand or a new company or a new shaper, and I'll just be like, wow, they look really nice. And maybe I'll buy like 5 for the board or something. But quite often it's if I'm working a project or if I'm trying to work a weakness, I might choose a climbing hold or even contact a climbing shaper to make a hold in a style that I want. Some good example of this is the Silly Goat tiny little crimps I've got on there. They were specifically made for me. They're like little 1-finger crimps, and I can kind of put them in different shapes and then essentially make a custom hold out of them.
I'm glad again that you brought up them, because on this board you have these like tiny Silly Goat crimps. And there's some crimps up there that, like, what size is your smallest crimp? Because I don't think I could just even dead hang some of the crimps that I see up on that board.
So actually the smallest hold on the face is an in-cut 8mm crimp, I think. But the Silly Goat ones, they go down to 10mm, and they're pretty gnarly because each one's only it takes like one finger. And so I quite like, basically, if I've got a project that has a very specific type of hold, I'll put those in the order and in the shape that it'll fit that hold, and that'll basically create the hold from the project.
So, and you said the smallest was in this 8mm.
Yeah.
So what's the smallest hold you can just dead hang normally?
To be honest, I'm not that strong in that sort of way. Like, I'm not like I guess like the one armed I can't even dead hang a crimp like without weight assisted. I guess like two armed I can dead hang on the 8mm, but definitely not the 6mm. So it's kind of crazy that I have like 8mm on a 45-degree board, but it is different being able to pull on a crimp with your feet on, even on a steep angle, compared to being able to dead hang with your feet off. I mean, obviously dead hanging with your feet off is an entirely physical sort of thing. You know, you've just got to be strong enough to do it. Whereas having them on a board where you're using your feet, it's more about, you know, your core body tension, how well you can use your feet, how much weight you can get through your feet, and what your body position is generally like on the wall. So I think that having these small holds on the board is good because it almost trains both your fingers and your technique as well at the same time.
I think that's quite a cool take on it, because I don't think it's a common one. Like, I don't think a lot of people would say the smallest edge I can dead hang is 8mm, so I'm going to put 8mm holes on the board, because I feel like generally the holes on boards are small, but I don't think people push it to their like minimum max. Have you seen, like, is this a new thing that you've been doing on boards?
Yeah, definitely. Probably in the last year, actually. Beforehand, I never actually had very small holds on. I would just have like, they'd be quite poor holds, but definitely be larger. And you know, what I found was that, you know, with the larger holds, you tend to do bigger moves, and also you don't tend to do intermediate moves as much. But when you get smaller holds, you tend to grab them at first, and because you're not good enough, you're not strong enough to hold that hold, you'll only use it as an intermediate to bump again. But over the last year, what I found with those holds is they've conditioned my fingers to basically being able to pull on them, you know, easier, I guess, like, in a sense, maybe getting stronger, maybe getting a bit more conditioned to holding those holds. And now I can actually pull on them and actually initiate moves off them. So I have initiated moves off like some of the 10mm edges on this board. I've not quite managed the 8mm yet, but you know, I'm working on it.